So much to be said about Brian Harson's time at the University of Auburn. First thing you could say is it wasn't long enough to really get a great feel for certain things, and it was too long to have to continue to put up with the things that we'd already been seeing. You know, immediately there was a lot of questions about whether he was the right fit at an SEC school or at the University of Auburn, where they've had trouble with boosters and people sort of meddling in their business. And they do spread out the responsibilities for funding that program to a lot of different individuals who participate in the great budget and great opportunity and have created the tremendous accomplishments that Auburn University has on the football field. I'm not going to take that. This isn't about that. And I'll also suggest this at this point. It isn't about how much money he's getting as a buyout. I know we just gravitate to whatever's known, I think. We just gravitate to, oh, but he's going to get paid. Oh, let's get on to the next thing. You know, I look at it completely different than that, because I watched him from his opening press conference to the last press conference he just had. I find that interesting, though. That's my smaller, narrower look at things. I admire people who push themselves to that next level, who say, you know what, I've done this, that, or the other. Let me take a shot over here and see what I can get done. And that goes down to, you know, all the way back to Jim Kreiner. Even before that, I didn't play for Coach Knapp, but he left for UNLV. Coach Kreiner left for Iowa State. And, you know, just go down that list. It took a while for the next coach to leave, but Houston Nutt took off for Arkansas, and Hawk for Colorado, and Cutter for Arizona State, and Pete for Washington, and now Harsin for Auburn. And, you know, you could argue not all of those worked out, but you could look at any coaching position in FBS football and Power 5 football and say a lot of them don't work out. I don't think the averages are that abnormal. Some of them and all of them had moments of success in their new ventures. They didn't necessarily attain a high level of success and move on to that next bigger job. You could argue that, I think, quite easily. But let's get back to Harsin. And the booster involvement at Auburn, once they didn't win enough games, was never going to be something that he was going to manage. From my experience of Brian, he's not going to allow his time to be caught up into people who are basically using the athletic department as a personal entertainment vehicle. And that's fine. I think we have a right to do that and just stay in our lane, though. And the Auburn booster tends to want to get out of that lane. And I think the transfer portal also was horrific timing for Coach Harsin. He had a new staff, a new program. He had quarterback challenges. He's trying to pull these things together at a time when kids could just bail and transfer to anywhere they wanted to go. I don't think he was prepared for that because he wasn't winning enough. He was the new guy. He wasn't going to get support from the president's office or the athletic director, who essentially was castrated. And so he really was on an island, and his style wasn't to go out and build bridges and be political and all that. His style was to bunker down and say, I'm going to take care of this, and the rest of it will take care of itself, because if I don't win, I'm going to be gone anyway. So we went and tried to control what he's most comfortable controlling. And I don't think he's most comfortable trying to control other people's attitudes and opinions, and I think a lot of us aren't. So is he a perfect person? No. Is he irritating to some? Yes. Does he have two personalities? Probably. Has he learned a lot? Yes. Was he under unbelievable pressure? In highly visible situations with press conferences and media that would ask personal questions, and that's their job and that's their right. This isn't about them, but he was dealing with those things in that environment, in the shadow of Nick Saban and Auburn. So an extraordinary set of circumstances. I never saw him flinch. I'm not saying he dominated the press conferences and dominated all that stuff and won, but I just admire the guy's balls to go through it, man. He put himself on the line. It didn't work out. He's going to look at his skill set and say, okay, what are my strengths and where should I be next in my career where my strengths match what somebody wants, and go from there. And wherever that is, I'm sure Harsin's going to figure that out. So is the money a consolation? Yes, he earned it. Did they do everything they could to tarnish his reputation? No question. No question. An unprecedented level of scrutiny given a coach, false accusations about things that happened off the field that made it a rather extraordinary set of circumstances, plus rampant expectation that he would be fired. Openly discussed in mainstream national college football media environments. And that is a recipe for total disaster. You can't coach, you can't recruit, you've been castrated by that. So all of those things are going to lead to what I think is the most interesting part about this is what's next for Coach Harsin. Where does he go from here? I don't have those answers. And the first step you would think is, well, to me, if his offensive mind is respected enough and sharp enough, and I think it is, then I do think that the NFL would be as good or better fit for him to be dealing with man, football only, none of the other stuff. A lot of college coaches want to get out of college because of NIL and the transfer portal and all that. So that would be his preferred pit stop. Does he have enough resources in collateral with people to do that? I have no idea. Coach Harsin's buddies in the coaching profession have been either kept very quiet or very limited. I don't. But I do know that starts counting for things, who you know and how you can get there. Mac Brown liked him and hired him enough to bring him to Texas. I don't know that he would need him at North Carolina as an OC, but who knows? Well, maybe Saban brings him on as an analyst tomorrow, for God's sake. Well, stranger things have happened. But this isn't about that. There'll be time to get to that, but it's just a quick couple of thoughts on this. I admire taking the chance and giving people who was on his staff or from Boise, Idaho, or both, a chance to go experience the SEC and some of the worst of what it offered. And they were some of the best of what it offered in some awesome environments that they got a chance to experience. So I'll be anxious as anybody to see what happens with Coach Harsin and wish him nothing but the best.